Can you talk about what Highlander School was?
Oh, good heavens, that Myles Horton. Myles Horton was the best educator the country ever had, and I knew Myles. He's a fine, remarkable man, good preacher too. The Highlander principle was that any group of people in the community experiencing a problem, if they sit in a circle and spend a couple of days telling each other their life story, will eventually arrive at a solution to the problem. So the Highlander School is created for people to come together and do that, so there's food that's prepared for them, and a place to stay, and if you run into a knotty problem and you need a lawyer or you need an expert, and X is a has-been, a spurt is a drip under pressure. You need an expert, come in there. They'll come in and tell you what you want to hear, and then they have to leave. You know how a lawyer can take over a meeting, and then you go back and just use the information because it's right in the hands of those people to do that. And that's where Rosa Parks was. Martin Luther King was there. Remember that billboard during the 60s that the John Birch Society put up, said Martin Luther King at a communist training school? That was Highlander, that he was at. And it's Myles' idea, an extraordinary idea that works. Myles was a great organizer by himself. Myles Horton told me once, he said he was doing an organizing job in a little small town, a coal mine job. And the thugs were in town, and they were going to try to break the union, pretty violent. The preacher feared for Myles' life and gave him a horse pistol to protect himself, but it was broken and it didn't have any ammunition, and Myles said he didn't know how to use it anyway. Well, Myles was looking out the front window down on the street from the rooming house, and a big black car pulled up, and the three goons got out. And Myles opened the window, and dangling that pistol out the window said, "Hey, you down there, let me tell you something." And he looked up and said, "Horton, you can't tell us anything." He said, "Oh, yes, I can. You've got to get organized." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "You're not organized." "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, now look, you're going to come upstairs and try to kill me. You're going to kick in my door. I'm going to shoot the first one inside the door, and I may get the second one. Third one will get me, but you got to decide which one's going to come in first. You got to get organized." Well, they talked to each other for a while and got in the car and drove away. Myles could do that. One time he was invited to give a talk on leadership. And he showed up in town, and he couldn't remember where he's supposed to go. He lost a piece of paper. So he walked up to the main part of town, and he saw a bunch of people going into a hall. So he followed them. And he went in there and saw his name on the reader board, and everybody sat down, and he sat down. When they were all sat down, he got up and walked to the front onto the stage and said, "Leadership is finding a bunch of people who look like they know where they're going and following them, and when they're all sitting down, stand up and talk to them about leadership."
Highlander was in Tennessee.
Yes, Highlander, Newmarket, Tennessee. There's a wonderful book about Highlander called Seeds of Change. Seeds of Fire, Seeds of Change, and I highly recommend it. And then The Long Haul is Myles Horton's autobiography, and I think that's still in print. So you want to find yourself a hero, folks. Read Myles Horton. Now that he's passed, Ammon Hennessy said to me, "If you got to have heroes, make sure they're dead so they can't blow it." That's just good advice.